Alright, so in the last video, we did simplifying and multiplication of our fractions, or our rational expressions. Now we're going to be dividing. Now first thing I want to do is take a simple equation. So if I say 1/2 divided by 1/4, and I said, what is this equal to? Hopefully you would tell me that we take 1/2 and then we can multiply by the reciprocal of our second part. So we can multiply by 4 over 1. So then we would get 4 over 2, which is 2. So hopefully you would tell me something like this. So we're going to do the same thing with rational expressions, so we don't actually have to divide anything. We're just going to multiply. So the first thing that we're going to do is rewrite the second fraction. So we have 4x on top divided by 5x minus 20, and then we're going to multiply by this thing flipped over. So I have x squared minus 6x plus 8 on top divided by x squared minus 2x. Okay, so our step 2 says factor numerator and factor denominator. So I'm just going to look at each piece and I'm going to say 4x. Is there anything I can do to that? And the answer should be no. So I'm just going to leave 4x there. Then, the bottom one, I have 5x minus 20. Is there anything that I can take out of this? Hopefully you say yes, and you can take out 5. So I have 5 out in front, and then I have x minus 4 on the inside. Then I'm going to multiply this by this thing here. So I have two numbers that multiply together to be 8 and add together to be -6. Hopefully you said -4 and -2. So I have x minus 4 times x minus 2. And then the bottom here, I'm going to look at it and see that I have an x in both of them, so I can factor using greatest common factor. Take an x out, so I'm left with x minus 2. Now, these two things are being multiplied, so realistically, it's all one fraction. Like, this line could extend like this since it's all being multiplied. So I'm going to cancel out all my pieces. So I'm going to see x minus 2 and x minus 2 go away. I have an x here and an x here. And then I have x minus 4 and x minus 4. So really, the only things that I have left are 4 and 5. So after I divide everything out, I have 4 divided by 5. And that does not simplify anymore. So I just leave it as 4 over 5 as my answer. So really, division isn't anything different than multiplication. We just have to remember to flip this piece. So our next problem, we're going to do the same thing. Now remember that this is over 1. So since that is over 1, when I rewrite my fraction, I'm going to have to flip it over. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction, 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 divided by 6x. And then I'm going to change my sign, so multiply by 1 over 2x squared plus 5x. Now I'm going to go through and factor all of my pieces. To factor this thing, I have 2 times -5 if I'm using AC method. So I need a number that multiplies to be -10 and adds together to be 3. So if I have those things, I can choose 5 and -2. Okay, 5 and -2. So this top piece is going to turn into 2x squared plus 5x minus 2x minus 5. Because remember, I am replacing this piece with my two numbers, because 5 minus 2 is 3x, which would leave you with this. And this is still divided by 6x because I can't do anything to that, times 1 over, and I have 2x squared plus 5x, so I can pull an x out of that and be left with 2x plus 5. Now, I need to factor by grouping over here. So I'm going to group my first two terms in factor, greatest common factor, and then my second two terms. So I have 2x squared plus 5x, so I can factor x out of that. So I have x times 2x plus 5. And then this side I have negative 2x minus 5, so I can factor out a negative 1 and have 2x plus 5. Again, this is still over 6x times 1 over x times 2x plus 5. Now I need to combine these pieces. So I have x minus 1, and I have 2x plus 5 as my top factors. Again, divided by 6x times 1 over x times 2x plus 5. Now I need to cancel my pieces, so I have a 2x plus 5 here and a 2x plus 5 here. I can't cancel this x with this x minus 1 because x minus 1 is hooked together. I can't cancel 6x with x minus 1, so nothing else can be canceled. So now what I'm going to suggest is I have x minus 1 times 1 on the top divided by 6x times x on the bottom. So the top is going to be x minus 1, and the bottom it's going to be x times x is x squared, so it's going to be 6x squared. So this is going to be my answer. Now, the other thing that you could have done is if you didn't want to write this whole thing out over and over again, you could say, okay, I'm going to factor this, and you could have put like a star over here and done 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 and factored it off to the side and then ended up down here without having to write all of this out every time. That is totally fine with me. I don't care. As long as you make it known to me that you did the factoring off to the side, that is fine. All right. Have a good night.